Moving on up, we have in the throat chakra, the natural born storyteller of the creatrix. And the creatrix is the manifestation maven. She can take a thought and speak it into form. So the creatrix is, again, very, very creative and unique, and it is all about self-expression. So it's a lot of that throat chakra energy of the creatrix. That happens to be my primary archetype. In the third eye, we have the crone, the wise woman. So that visionary center of our third eye, that's where our wise woman hangs out, and she sees the big picture. She's definitely one for structure, systems. She's the expert. She likely, her business is likely based on knowledge. People hire her, for what she knows. She's very that knowledge and wisdom based, and that's all. There's a beautiful thing. I mean, all of these archetypes have strengths and shadows. Right. So I'm saying a lot of the strengths, right? The good side.
Totally.
And then we have in the crown, we have the priestess. So she's, of course, the spiritual leader, the spiritual teacher. And she's very concerned with being that bridge between the divine knowledge and the human existence. And so the priestess is going to be, very, very devoted to creating spaces or to assist others in connecting with their spirituality and with their divine connection. And so there you have all 7 of them working within us. We have them all within us. But like I said, we often will have 2 very, very dominant ones, our primary ones. And then we also will have the ones that are more in the shadows.
Well, and shadow work it can be like so transformative.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like I did some archetype work with the Carolyn Misses archetypes, and when I was looking at the shadow, I was like, oh, that's something to be aware of.
Yeah, that's why I say that the real gold in this work is actually in understanding your shadow archetype most of the time. Because when for example, when I do the assessments with people, we're well aware of our dominant personality for the most part, right? So when I say to someone, oh, you're a healer, they're like, yeah. Right. I knew that. But then if I say something like, oh, you actually have a priestess shadow or a maiden shadow, and then it's like that's the real work to look at. And interestingly, that this is that we're having this conversation tonight. When we're right in the middle of an extended eclipse portal right now, and a lot of that shadow work will come up during these times of accelerated growth, because we can't grow, we can't expand into the next level of who we are, the next chapter of what we're doing, until we really look at that. And any light worker needs to also be a shadow worker, because they they're the 2 sides of the same coin. You can't only be looking at the light all the time.
Right. Agreed. And I personally have experienced our eclipse effects this morning, in it taking me into my own shadow, and I was not comfortable there at all, and I had to call a friend and be like, hey, I'm kind of freaking out.
Right
So she had to, like, talk me off the ledge, right? So how can entrepreneurs and leaders out there, because you don't just work with entrepreneurs, you work with people who are employees and are in leadership positions, how can they amplify their income, impact and their income by understanding the alignment of these chakras and the goddesses?
Yeah, well, it really comes down to knowing yourself. Know thyself as being the first creed, because when we're really connected to our authenticity, then we're connected to our own power. It's epidemic. I feel in so many ways, and it doesn't matter what industry or who, but like people are going after things that they don't even really want. They're trying to be people that they aren't. That's not even authentic to them. But especially in this day and age where we have so much media and advertising, it's like we're being force fed. Like, you should want this and you should do this. There's so many people are completely out of alignment. Mm-hmm. They're just, they're going after jobs that they're staying in jobs that they hate, but they're still trying to get a promotion. It's right? Just like, what is going on? So when I say increasing your impact, and your income, because when we are in our authenticity, then we are in our power, and ain't nobody can mess with us when we are really true to ourselves. And we're not going to be distracted by by someone else's desire, someone else's value, or whatever it is. And it's certainly in the online business space, and with other coaches that I'm around and that we just see around, or because we like someone else's page, suddenly someone else's sponsored ad is showing up in our feed. And it can be very easy to if we're not really anchored in our own in our own truth, then we start to unconsciously slip into what I call like the imposter business model, where right? Where it's like, oh, well, so-and-so's doing that kind of program or offering that kind of coaching. Oh, yeah, I should do that too. And so there's a lot of, either unconscious or conscious plagiarism of a kind, or even like, I know someone else that calls this incest marketing, which
totally
yuck.
I know, but it's true.
Right? Because we will be looking at someone else and saying, oh, well, I want what they have, so I should do what they do. And very rarely will that actually work, unless by some, magical coincidence, you are like the same archetype and the same person and the same energetic imprint. It's really unlikely.
And in the same position in your career and knowledge level and everything.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. So that's where I'm coming from, where I feel that it's so important, because we get to a place where a lot of us, if we're still looking outside of ourselves for answers, then we're giving our power away to other people or to other sources, instead of always tuning in with who do I know myself to be, what's my truth, what are my specific skills, what's my zone of genius, what are my gifts. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter what anyone else is doing, and I'm going to do what inspires me, what I know lights me up, what I know that my community wants, whatever it is, and I'm going to do it in a way that's unique to me. And that's where the real impact and the increase in income comes from.
Well, yeah, there's so much there. I was like, I don't want to jump in and talk, but one, like, you're not going to be anybody else, right? And I found when I was writing Confessions of a Money Rockstar, I had to put blinders on. So there's a lot of people out there that I love that talk about money, And I had to unfollow them and unsubscribe. And I was like, no, I'm not going to look at anybody else. It's just me. I can't be influenced because it didn't feel authentic. And I was worried about kind of like just co-opting somebody else's practices or business or even marketing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I remember years ago, like, I don't know, maybe 8 years ago or something, I fell in love with Denise Duffield Thomas. And if I look at my website from 6 years ago, it was totally influenced by her kind of beachy thing. Right?
Interesting.
And I wasn't even doing it consciously. But I just kind of like fell into that. Oh, I like this. It feels good. And, you know, that kind of stuff can just happen. But it can also be on purpose, right? So.
Yeah. And, you know, I'm glad that the conversation's gone here because, you know, I've had a couple women accuse me of copying their work. And I was really, I was really upset and hurt by that because, well, one, I really value being unique and I would never copy anyone else's work. And yet when, like just what you said, where you're like, well, when you're both talking about money mindset, it's very easy to be sharing a lot of the same information. Or me, if you're, you know, I share about lunar phases and manifesting with the moon, and there's plenty of other people out there that are doing that. So of course there's going to be similarities, but without really infusing everything that you do with your unique, you know, brand, which is really just what makes you unique, then, you know, if you don't do that, then your work can feel more generalized, and then other people can see it as, oh, well, you're copying me. You know, even right down to fonts and other, you know, graphic branding trends that we don't even realize. Like recently, I think I was on a website and I said, hey, wait, I think we're using the same script font.
Right.
But it's like script fonts are really popular right now. And my graphic designer, I was like, yes, I love that one. That one makes me feel good. It's not like because I wasn't trying to copy anyone else, but there is that danger, like you said, and very important to limit your consumption.
Well,
very important too.
And I even found so I brought sacred geometry into my brand, and then all of a sudden I was seeing all these other people using sacred geometry, and I was like, what are you doing? That's mine. Well, it's not mine. You know, it's the universe's. But it was like, I call my branding gal, and I'm like, they're using the same thing. They got the triangles.
Yeah.
Right? And she's like, okay, can you just take a deep breath here? Like, they're triangles. Okay?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
I was like, but I have them tattooed on my fingers. They are mine.
That's commitment.
Right?
Yeah. There's a name for that phenomenon too, and I'm forgetting it now, but it's often that will come up because it's come more closly into your awareness. And if you get a certain make or model of car, right? Like if you buy a new car, then all of a sudden you're seeing that car everywhere. Where you never saw that car before. So there is a name for that phenomenon. And so that can happen too. Just like you said, sacred geometry on your website. And then because you're more hyper aware of it, you're suddenly seeing everyone else who has it on theirs. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other part, I think, which is really kind of relevant for me today specifically, because just before this interview, I got off a call with a client, and she was like, I don't want to do my business anymore. Oh. Like, I'm done. I'm not interested in this. I'm tapped out. I feel like I created this business because I was in competition with other people, and I don't want to do that. And I've completely lost the love of what I do, and it's all about like, did I sell more than this person? Is my price point compared to theirs? And so it was like an hour-long conversation of how do you back out of a business that you've created.